Zoran Mamdani is not the first New York City politician to champion free public transit of some form. Perhaps the biggest champion of expanding free public transit in New York City was Rudy Giuliani, the same Rudy Giuliani who peddled conspiracy theories about the 2020 presidential election. Um, what? I don't even know what to say right now. So let's talk about how Rudy Giuliani, who is absolutely not a socialist and is a Republican, helped expand free public transit in New York City. That free public transit came in the form of the Staten Island Ferry. It is a ferry that connects the southern tip of Manhattan to the north shore of Staten Island. As there is no subway that directly connects Manhattan to Staten Island, or any borough to Staten Island for that matter, and as there is no road connecting the two boroughs, the ferry provides a critical link for Staten Islanders who want or need to head to or from Manhattan. Because of that critical link, you might not be surprised to find that many Staten Islanders were pretty upset when the fare was raised from 25 cents to 50 cents in the early 1990s. In fact, the doubling of this fare was one of the grievances that supercharged a movement for the borough to secede from the rest of New York City. It wasn't the only thing. Being politically different from the rest of New York City definitely didn't help. Nor did the fact that New York City literally used Staten Island as its dumping ground. But the ferry fare was definitely a major contributing factor in Staten Island voting by about a 2-to-1 margin to secede from New York City. This secession was blocked by the New York State Assembly. But there is a politician who actually wanted to do something to address the grievances that resulted in the secession vote in the first place. Enter Rudy Giuliani, of all people. Giuliani was a high profile prosecutor who, despite being a Republican in a heavily Democratic New York City, came extremely close to winning the 1989 mayoral election. He ran again in 1993 and won. Not only was the mayoral race on the ballot, the secession referendum was on the ballot in Staten Island. And that's an important thing to consider, because that referendum drove a lot of Giuliani voters to the polls in that borough. It was one of several factors that led to his win. And it's a factor to consider, because reports I've read from that particular election said that he promised to address the concerns of Staten Islanders. Which is important, because it was this general feeling of being ignored and literally dumped on for decades that led to the secession movement in the first place. And while one could debate his mayoralty as a whole, a debate that would go off topic from what this channel is supposed to be about, he did address two of Staten Island's biggest grievances. One of them was the Fresh Kills landfill, whose closure Giuliani advocated for, and the other of them was the fare on the Staten Island Ferry, which he made free in 1997. The timing of making it free is not lost on me, because 1997 was also when Giuliani was running for re election. It was a re election campaign that he won easily, bolstered by getting nearly 79% of the vote on Staten Island. I don't know how much making the ferry free helped his margin of victory there, but somehow, I doubt it hurt him. Regardless of the motives for making the Staten Island ferry free, he was able to get it done. Granted, how he was able to get it done was relatively straightforward, as far as I could tell. That's for one big reason. The Staten Island Ferry is run by the New York City Department of Transportation, a New York City government agency controlled by the mayor. Because of that, the mayor has significant power over what the New York City Department of Transportation does, and therefore, what the Staten Island Ferry does. The mayor would need the city council's help if they wanted to implement something for the ferry that required a change in law or extra funding in the city's budget. But short of that, the mayor has a lot of power over the ferry. What that meant practically, in terms of implementing the free fares for the ferry, was that Giuliani had significant control, perhaps even unilateral control. to make the Staten Island ferry free. So, I guess this means that it'll also be easy peasy for a mayor of New York City, whether it be Zoran Mamdani or someone else, to make the buses free. Right? Not necessarily. Here's why. The fate of free buses in New York City, from what I can tell, likely rests with the New York State Legislature, Governor Hochul, and the MTA Board of Directors. The mayor of New York City has control over exactly none of these three. I place special emphasis on the fact that the mayor doesn't control the MTA, by the way. Many New Yorkers seem to mistakenly believe that, and that mistaken belief makes the job of mayor of New York City more miserable than it should be. The reason I say that it rests in the hands of these three entities is because these are the three entities key to implementing a free bus pilot program on a handful of bus lines a couple of years ago. As such, I'm making an educated guess that it'll need the favor of the state legislature, the governor, and the MTA board of directors in order to make this possible. Though, as someone who has experience with the machinations of the MTA, the New York State legislature, or the governor of New York thinks that I'm wrong, please let me know in the comment section below. That said, if I'm even close to correct, what this means is that Mamdani's path to free buses is nowhere near as straightforward as Giuliani's path to a free Staten Island ferry in 1997. It's definitely possible, but to make this possibility a reality, Mayor Mamdani would need to rely on others in ways that Giuliani didn't need to when he made the Staten Island ferry free. And it pains me to say this, because I do want free buses, and I support free buses. And I desperately hope that it's a much simpler process than I think it is. Speaking of things that pain me, spending so much time saying positive things about Rudy Giuliani, who I remind people yet again spread conspiracy theories about the 2020 presidential election, also pain me. So, I'm going to stop talking and start recovering from that pain. Emotional pain, that is. If it were physical pain, that's where Tylenol would come in handy.